Hi everyone, my name is Alina Balsley and I am the Customer Success Manager here at Performance Livestock Analytics. Today I'm excited to be showing you guys a deep dive into the analytics within Performance Beef. Um, so we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. If you guys have questions or want more details about any aspect of Performance Beef, feel free to tweet at us, comment on our Facebook page, shoot us a private message, as always, call our support line. Our team's right back there, happy to help at any time. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So I've got one of our demo accounts pulled up here, and I'm just going to go ahead and jump all the way down to the analytics. For more details of the rest of the program, feel free to check us out on YouTube. We have a whole thread of these different walkthroughs and tutorial videos of, kind of getting more out of your performance beef program. So today we're going to jump into the analytics. So as I jump in here, you can see I've got pen 1 selected by default. It's going to list all of my open pens, my groups, and my closed groups. So over time, this list will kind of accumulate here. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that on pen 1 there. And in this second drop down, the one just to the right of it, it gives you kind of your data selection for visualization. And they are going to be different from the information you get from the pen versus the group. So this is really going to be kind of high level overview information that you get from your pen. A lot of this information is being pulled from the overview page based off of your targets, looking at the bunk scores, your feed times, all of that good information there is being captured from the pens. So to give you a quick breakdown, there are going to be some of these that are both on a per group and a per pen basis. I only actually have one group of cattle in this account in pen 1, and I think there's about 237 head in there. So I'm going to go ahead and I won't hit on all of these for both the pen and the group. So for instance, your dry matter and as fed per head, per pound, your NEM, your head counts, all of those are both on a per pen and a per group basis or per lot. So just looking at this, my dry matter and as fed per head really isn't going to vary in this example from the pen to the group specifically. So these couple I'll save for the group, just so you can see how somebody who may have a couple different groups in a pen would then analyze this information. A great tip here, this head count, it's always just kind of nice to help kind of backtrack where your group is at any given time, what this pen is up to. So I have 241 head currently in this pen. Really just gives you that quick overview. I really love this target deviation of as fed. So this is how much over or under I would have fed this pen based off of what my calls were on that overview page. So let's look at, let's see, yesterday's information. I was actually 60 pounds over, or this example was 60 pounds over what they were actually supposed to get based off of that as fed target. You can see back on Wednesday, December 4th, they were underfed 80 pounds. So as close to this line as you can get, the better and more accurate you're going to be. So as we kind of jump in, there's also one on a dry matter basis. And this is going to break it down on a dry matter calculation. So you can see that Wednesday, December 4th, it was 32 pounds under that call for the dry matter. One thing I'd like to point out too that's really handy is all of this information. Any of the pages in here you can export right from Performance Beef. So if I hit this export function here and open it up, it will give me this in a Excel sheet format. That way you can kind of take the data as you please. use it in any other capacity that you'd like, because all of that data, of course, is yours. So that is one nice thing. A lot of people like to export their feed overviews, which we'll get to on the group basis. Um, the other great thing is a bunk score. This gives you on a per pen basis. This is something you do on a per pen basis, so this will not be available on a per group basis, because you can have multiple groups, of course, in multiple pens, or multiple groups within a single pen. So looking at this, I'm going to actually switch down to a different pen here, so you can get kind of a more detailed overview, really looking back at how these bunk scores are scoring. So you can see back on July 5th, it got scored very high. And this just gives you kind of a good overview of saying, okay, how much are we overfeeding them? Do we need to bump them up quicker? It really gives you a nice visualization of that long-term, your long-term success of feeding here. Again, these can all be exported, so you can do what you'd like with that data. Feed times is another great chart. It really gives you the breakdown of when these cattle are getting fed. So if you have multiple drops, those are going to show up along here. This group, or this pen, excuse me, does only get fed twice a day. And so you're only going to have the 2 drops available to see when those are taking place. But if you feed up to 4 times a day, you will see those in there as well. Do keep in mind this information does have a tendency to be overwrote if the confirm button is hit multiple times, or if that data does hit back to the server a couple of times. That this information can change throughout the day, just depending who's in the loads, who's going back in and resaving information. The last couple of charts on the per group or the per pen basis here is these dry matter charts. This really gives you the breakdown of where your dry matter is coming from over time. So you can see the majority of this pen's dry matter intake is coming from earlage. So we're at 36.3% of the dry matter consumed in this pen is from earlage. As you can see, the breakdown through dry corn, balancer with corn, silage, modified distillers, so on and so forth. Same thing with the as-fed distribution on a per pen basis. Again, the majority is coming from earlage. This is just going to be that entire feed. Where is most of that coming from? The last great chart on this per pen basis is this distribution of cost on the ration. So you can see again how much of that pen, where those costs are coming from. 34.55% is coming from that earlage. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the group basis here. I'm going to use group 37 because that's the group that is in Pen 1. So we're going to use this one as the example. Like I mentioned, the system will have a lot of similar charts on a per pen basis versus a per group basis. This is, again, really nice for those who have multiple groups within a single pen, or a single group within multiple pens. So you can really see kind of where those breakdowns are coming from and the performance across the yard. So the chart that I'm going to use here is the dry matter and as fed per head. And what's really great about this chart is that it gives you a breakdown of the consumption over time for the group itself. So this is a very direct reflection to your closeout report information, where that dry matter is coming from. So as you can see here, over time, it will show you kind of that rise and fall in those individual cattle intakes. Um, you can see this little dip here, and back on December 5th, I can see that they got 22.78 pounds of dry matter and 44.77 pounds of as-fed feed of that ration. What I really like about this chart is it really shows you kind of that gradual uptake in feed for the cattle, but then it also shows you any outliers, so any peaks or valleys in their intakes, but then also in the data itself. So if you think that there's any kind of outliers in days that they may have gotten too much feed or not enough, or something maybe didn't go right with the system recording the feed. Somebody maybe didn't remember to take the iPad for the second feeding and forgot to put that information back into the program. You can always come and see kind of those peaks and valleys in the data here very quickly and very easily in comparison to just looking through the sheets page and trying to figure out the difference in those kind of highs and lows there. So along the bottom, one thing I'd like to point out is kind of these overlays. So I'm going to go ahead and add both the target per head and the target dry per head overlays here. So this red line is going to be that target per head of as fed for that ration. So it looks like I'm shooting for, today I'm shooting for 44.4 pounds of feed per head for this pen, and so that will show me, as I start to feed, how close I was to that target. Did I overfeed? Did I underfeed? You can see back on December 3rd that they did get overfed by a little bit, but then I can also see the same thing on the dry matter. How much was that deviation there? So as we keep going down, the one thing I like to point out on this, because my account is on a growth model, is this daily gain chart, which I think is a tremendous chart when looking at the cattle performance overall. So this, like I mentioned, this account is on a growth model. So it's taking in that dry matter, the weather, the NEM and NEG values for the feed ingredients, as well as the cattle breed and gender, and a numerous of other kind of coefficients there. But as you can see, this chart really shows you a nice breakdown of how those cattle pick up on feed and what their average daily gain is over time. So today, or yesterday, I suppose, they're sitting at a 2.6 average daily gain since their time on feed. The report that I like to use in conjunction with this is this projected weight. So you can see kind of right where those cattle are at any given day, really what the growth model is projecting and what the cattle are performing. The other two charts, of course, is this total cost of gain chart. You can see because of your delivery costs, it kind of picks up and spikes here. Maybe there's some processing costs in there. And then over time, you'll see that those bars will start to get a little bit higher and higher as your cost of gain starts to increase and you become less efficient. Those cattle are becoming less efficient. So this is a really great chart to show you where your break even is, your cost of gain, and your daily cost of gain kind of over time for that group as well. Of course, another great chart is that feed cost of gain, a very similar chart in its structure, but it really is just pulling in that feed cost based off of those cattle's intakes. So let's see, total cost breakdown is another great chart. Really shows you, so this delivery cost was our highest cost. It really shows you where all those costs are coming from when considering your break evens, your total cost of gains, anything like that. You can really see where kind of all those costs are breaking down. So obviously your purchase cost is going to be a big factor in there. Because these cattle haven't been on feed, it is the biggest factor, but as they start to get on feed longer and longer, this piece here will start to get larger and larger. So I've got yardage, cattle interest, all of these different breakdowns over here along the top, trucking, sales expenses, vet and med, everything like that is broken down right here in this pie chart. Same thing with, again, your ration costs, your dry matter costs. Showed you kind of all of those charts. The other couple of charts that you do get is with the growth model is your amount of dry matter and as fed on a percent of body weight. So you can really see kind of where those cattle are at any given time based off of their weight and their intakes. How much are those cattle truly consuming versus what you have set for their target. So I really love these analytics. I think they're one piece of the program that is so good at visualizing the information that you have available to you and really keeping a really close eye on where every group of cattle is, where every pen of cattle is, how well you as an operation are performing, as well as the cattle. So you can really see and keep a very close eye on the entire yard's performance with these analytics. And I think these are great discussion topics to bring up with your nutritionist as well to help you start to analyze this data. As you guys dig deeper into your performance beef program, we would be happy to set up a time to kind of review all of these analytics one-on-one with you or answer any questions about that. Feel free to, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, shout us out on Twitter, Facebook, we're on Instagram, or just give our support line a call. That number is 515-337-2187, and it's available at any time. So whenever you need help, definitely give us a call, and we'd be happy to continue to explain these analytics and show you the value of this data that you have available.